Hey guys, welcome to writing instruction for today. Learning how to just go through the writing process when writing an opinion prompt. Let's get started. All right, first and foremost, before we even jump into this, if you have not read your writing articles for this week, you will be lost. So please pause the video if you have not read the articles, go back, read them both at least twice, and then come back to this instructional video. Okay, so our step one in the writing process is to attack the prompt. We always attack the prompt first to figure out the type of writing that we're doing. Now, first thing in attacking the prompt is to actually read the prompt. So it says the articles talk about technology and how robots are enhancing our world. Write an essay in which you give your opinion about the benefits of robots. Use information from the passages in your essay. Well, the first thing I want is I need to look at these two words here. The first word is enhancing. When we're talking about enhancing something, we're talking about how does one thing make something better. So in other words, if we're enhancing our food, that means we're adding seasoning and flavor to make it better. If we're talking about enhancing our writing, we're adding different little techniques to make our writing better. So here, when it says enhancing our world, that's just asking, how do robots make our world better? The next word is the word benefit. It also asks that you give your opinion about the benefits of robots. Well, a benefit is what's good about it. What is something that's good or helpful about robots? So now that we got those two words out of the way, our keywords here, which say or says you to write an essay in which you give your opinion, that tells us that we are looking at another opinion writing prompt. So yay, we get to actually write another opinion paper. So let's move on and look at what our step number 2 is. All right, now, so the slide that we just left actually shows your writing prompt for this week. Our step 2, because we've already attacked the prompt, step 2 says that we now have to read both articles to come up with a focus, and then I have in parentheses here, main idea for each article. It was somewhat disappointing, guys, because I got questions this week and last week about, hey, what's a focus? And we've kind of been going over some of these things for a long time now. And one of the things when we got to step 2 in the writing process that we talked about is that the focus of the article is also the main idea of the article. So when we say we have to read both of those articles to come up with a focus, we're saying we need to figure out the main idea of each article. And the reason we do that, guys, is because remember, once we figure out a main idea for each of our articles, those main ideas that we figure out, those are going to go into our actual thesis statement. Okay, so the very first article we're going to look at here is titled Classrooms of the Future. And as always, I'd love for you guys to interact with the title first, because the title kind of gives you a big clue about what the article is going to be about. So then the next thing is to actually look at the picture. The picture shows some children. Looks like they may be in a school or a classroom. Now, you should have already read the article, Classrooms of the Future, because I'm not going to go through and read it, but we are going to talk about a focus, main idea of this article. When you read through this article, you should have read through it twice. It really, really talks about technology, and how it's going to enhance our classroom. Specifically, it's talking about a robot, okay? And the entire article is focused on how robots are going to make our classrooms better. So when we're thinking main idea, remember, we're thinking who or what is the article mostly about, and who or what is the big idea. So here, the who or the what are robots in our classrooms, and the big idea is improvement. How are robots making our classrooms better? So when I think about this, I got to think closely, and I got to use a lot of clues from what I read, because I know that this is going to be a part of my thesis statement. So after reading this, the first thing that I thought about with main idea was that the author was trying to tell me that the main idea is that robots enhance our education. So that's one way of saying it, right? Because it talks about how kids are going to have like virtual field trips, and how some robots are bringing like high-tech equipment to school. So that's enhancing our education. But I can say that same thing in different ways. So let me think of another way to say my main idea. I could also say robots improve our schools. So that's another main idea for this article. And both of those are essentially saying the same exact thing. Enhance our education, improving our schools, same thing. Another way of saying it, we can say that robots help shape future classrooms. If you notice this, because this entire article is really, really focused on robots in the classroom, my main idea, each main idea statement I kind of came up with, is talking about school, education, schools, and classrooms, because I'm careful to keep my main idea, my focus specifically on what the article is about. So I have my choice, or I'm sorry, not me, because this is your writing assignment, students. So you have your choice of which one of these main ideas you want to use in your thesis statement. So we're going to call these the greens, because essentially this is going to be the first reason in your thesis statement. So let's move on. Now, in our second article, which is titled Droids at Your Service. Again, the first thing I want you guys to do, you should have already read this at least twice, but I want you to look at the title. It's talking about droids, and I know that a droid is also a robot. Then I look at the picture, and I see what kind of appears to be a woman, or the caption says that there's a woman who's being helped by a HSR or DSR, whatever that is. But I'm assuming that this woman is getting some help from a robot. Now, when I went through, as I read through this particular article, I noticed that it was talking a lot about those droids, and how droids, they can build like power suits to assist or help with those different games. The Summer Olympic Games talked about how they can help humans lift heavy equipment. And it also even talked about how elderly people who sometimes have trouble lifting things, how it can also help them or help support them. So I noticed that the focus of this article is more on support or help with daily things. So my first main idea that I'm thinking about, if I'm thinking about who or what this is mostly about, I would first of all say it's talking about how those droids, those robots, can enhance our experiences, right? Summer Olympics, that's an experience. Elderly people needing assistance, that's an experience, right? And also robots helping us carry heavy packages or transporting things, that's an experience. Another way of saying the main idea would be, you could say it helps, or those robots help make our lives easier. That's another way of saying it also. Another way of saying the exact same thing is that robots, or those droids, help us perform important tasks. So if you notice, I read the article and I kind of thought about what was the main idea? What was the author trying to get across to me and say about robots? Well, those are the three main ideas that I came up, and I know I can choose one of those to be the second reason in my thesis statement. So I get to pick one. I looked at my greens. I have an option to choose one of the greens. Now I have an option to choose one of these blues, or not me. I keep saying me. You have the option to choose one of these blues to actually let that be your second reason in your thesis. Let's move on. Okay? Remember, a thesis statement is a point plus two reasons. It can be written in the form of what we call an and statement that looks like this. I think robots are beneficial to our world because they blank and blank. Or you could say, in my opinion, robots are beneficial to our world because they blank and blank. Now, here's what's important to remember about your thesis statement. Your thesis answers your writing prompt. And now I know that we may have our own personal opinions about robots and droids in our world. Maybe some of you think that they are not a good idea. They don't help us. But remember, when you're writing an opinion paper, your opinion has to be based upon the evidence from the articles that you've read. So, because we read so much evidence in both of those articles that show or prove that robots could actually be beneficial, then that's exactly what our thesis statement should state. So, you can choose either way to say it. You can say, I think robots are beneficial to our world because, or you can say, in my opinion, robots are beneficial. Just remember, we were at article number 1, and we came up with 3 main ideas. Those were the greens, right? The writing that was in green. So we can choose, or you guys can choose one of those, and that will be on your first line here, point number 1, or reason number 1 in your thesis, because what you're saying is, hey, I think robots are beneficial because, and you're stating the first reason why you think that. Now, read the second article, and we came up with 3 main ideas for that article also. That's going to be your second reason. Your second reason in your thesis statement. So none of us have any reason this week to not have a perfectly created, perfectly put together thesis statement.